Hello, this is a video tutorial for Unit 3, Activity 3. And so we'll go through the content of the activity. It's going to be broken up into 3 parts, and the first part is called Value Messages. And it's going to start by talking a little bit about how we develop our values in our lives. Every single one of us has certain things that we value more than we value other things. And so we're going to start by trying to figure out what it is that we value in our own lives. What are our personal values? And so there's just a little chart here, and it provides 10 ideas or items. So things like personal freedom, food, love, honesty, technology, friendship, money, clothing, world peace, family. And what you're going to do, and this is not being graded or not being submitted to me, this is just for your own benefit to kind of start the activity and get us thinking here. You're going to rank these 10 ideas and items from 1 being the most important to 10 being the least important. And there is absolutely no right or wrong answer. It's just your personal sort of values. And then you're going to consider a couple of questions here, 3 questions. And again, these aren't going to be graded or submitted to me. They're just to get you thinking about what you value in your life. And so number 1, which idea or item did you rank the highest? So which one did you rank number 1? And why? So why do you think that was the most important of these 10 ideas? And then which item did you rank the lowest and why? So which one of these did you think was not important to you? And then lastly, number 3, who or what do you think has influenced your values? So who has made you the person that you are? Who has helped you understand what you believe in and what you value in life? Do you think it was mostly your family, your friends, your religion, your culture, your education, or how about the media? And that's, of course, what our unit focuses on, is the media. So I'd like you to consider, when you think about your values, where do you think those values are primarily coming from? Where do you think, or how do you think you're developing those values? And then what we're going to do for the rest of this activity is look at how the media can impact those values. And so if we go down to number 2, it says media constructs reality. And this is a very famous phrase in media literacy studies. So people who study the media, they often say this phrase: media constructs reality. And there's a little video here that's got a lot of images of mass media and a few little text messages about how media influences our beliefs and our values and what we see as reality. And so watch the video first. It'll give you a general idea of what we mean by the media constructing reality. And then down here is a little note that tries to explain more this phrase, media constructs reality. And it's a pretty powerful statement. If we accept that media constructs our reality, what we're saying is that media has a large impact in how we see the world and what we value and what we believe in. And if we accept that means the media is extremely powerful. And so we should be giving it a lot of attention and analyze it and think about it if it's going to have this big an impact on how we think. And so there's a couple of examples here to get you thinking about how the media kind of creates how we see the world. And then what you're going to be asked to do is you're going to be asked to consider 2 separate news articles here. Both news articles are on the same event. They're both going to talk about how the warm weather is unusual, and it's just reporting the news, talking about how the warm weather is unusual in Manitoba in October. But they're going to have 2 very different angles or slants, or what we can call bias, when they try to explain why the weather is warm. And so if you were to read this article, you'd probably come away with thinking one thing about why the warm weather, what's causing the warm weather. And if you were to read this second article, you're probably going to have a different view, and it's going to tell you something different about why the weather is so warm in October. They're both articles would say that they're presenting the news, but they're both presenting different sides of the same story, and they both create a different impression of reality. They both are presenting different values and getting their readers to believe in different things. So it's important that we pay attention when we read or watch or listen to media messages, because there are values and there are beliefs that are being presented to us, and we need to be aware of that. And ultimately, the argument is if we don't pay attention to the media messages around us, and if we don't think about them, then we'll just accept those messages and those values without thinking, and they'll just become a part of our own values and beliefs and lifestyle, and we won't realize it. So again, it's important. The overall message here is pay attention. When we are looking at media messages, we need to look deeper and try to figure out what they're saying and whether we agree with it or not, and not just accept it. And that leads us to media stereotypes. And so the word stereotype, I'm sure you probably have an understanding what that is. But we give a little definition here of how stereotypes work, and we're going to talk about how they work specifically in the media. So how the media show certain people in a certain way, in a stereotypical way, that is usually negative, that usually shows people, so like, for example, the media will show men and women in very specific ways. They'll show people of different cultures and races in different ways. And so what we're going to look at is how they do that, and maybe start to pay attention to that more, so that we're not influenced by those stereotypes and we don't develop those stereotypes as part of our own belief system. And so there's going to be 4 articles here that are going to describe 4 different groups that are often stereotyped by the media. So we have visible minorities, we have Aboriginal or Indigenous peoples in Canada, we have women, and we have men. And so we're going to look at those 4 sort of general categories and how the media can present us images and values about those different groups of people. What I would say here is there's an important note. You don't have to read through all 4 of these articles and memorize everything in them. They're kind of deep articles. They might be a little tricky to read or difficult to read, but you will have to show in the assignment that you can go back to these articles and scan them and find specific pieces of information. So do make sure you take a look at these 4 articles because they will come back in the assignment. All right, towards the ending of the activity here, we're going to look specifically at an example of a magazine cover here. It's for the magazine Vogue, and there's some questions here that I'm going to ask you to consider when you look at this magazine, when you look at the images, when you look at the texts. And so things like, who is the magazine's intended audience? What gender, age group, social class, marital status is this magazine targeting? So if you look at this magazine cover right here, who are they targeting? Men, women? Are they targeting upper class, lower class? Do you think they're targeting single people or married people? We want to look deeper than just at the magazine cover, just at the images and the text. We want to try to look at the meanings behind the images and text. So who are they trying to connect with? Secondly, what creative techniques are they using to grab attention? Do you think, for example, that all of these images and the background and the woman in the picture, do you think that they're realistic, or do you think that they've been manipulated by a computer or airbrushed or changed in any way? Do the images we see in the media, should we consider them realistic images, or should we consider them created or constructed images? And then, what values or lifestyles are the magazine promoting? Do you agree with these values and lifestyles? So just by looking at the image and then just by looking at some of the article titles, on the side here that they're going to have. What do you think they're promoting here in terms of values and lifestyle? What are they trying to say about the world? And do you think that the articles in this magazine would be something that you would agree with? And then lastly, just by looking at the cover here, can you think of any media stereotypes that are being used here? For example, maybe the way the woman is being portrayed in the picture. Maybe there's some stereotypes there. What we want to try to get in the habit of doing is asking questions like this when we interact with media. So when we watch movies, when we read magazines, when we read the news, we should be looking deeper and not just taking in the information. We should be thinking about the meanings and the messages that that information is trying to present. And that pretty much takes us to the end here. There is a couple more readings you can take a look at. There's an article you can download here that further explains stereotyping. And then here's an online article that you can take a look at that helps people avoid picking up the prejudice and bias that the media present us through stereotypes. So this article just tries to get us to think more about the stereotypes we're seeing and avoid believing them. And once you've finished that, you're done in the content, and you can go on to the assignment. If you have any questions, please let me know.